Reviews, the biggest news, the what's new, and the who's who. Welcome to the Daily Gamer Podcast with Joe Mango and James.
Today we have probably our biggest guest so far. Very excited. Manel, welcome.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for hosting me here today.
Why don't you tell us, what you're actually doing with gamers for a living and how people can get involved with it?
And for the uninitiated, what is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so games for a living, basically. We started brainstorming, like how we can make, the first question was, is it possible at all to use blockchain technology to make gaming more interesting? That was the fundamental question. So we first looked at, the first thing was like, is there anything there that has, that works? Okay, so we looked and we basically found a couple of models. One was the model of NFTs. You make an upfront payment and then you use these NFTs to create new NFTs and sell them to new players. Now, the obvious problem here is that as soon as there is no new entrants, this is very similar to a Ponzi scheme in this sense, then there is no profit. So the whole thing falls apart, besides not being fun. So that schema we felt definitely was not what we had to go after. The other schema had to do with game systems where you could get a token by playing the game. So there is lots of variants of that, but at the end of the day, it's like you have a cohort of users that do one iteration, all of them get token, and the token is distributed. You basically have two options. The option number one is the token is distributed among the players that play the best, the most skilled ones, or the ones that paid the most. Now, the problem with this scheme is that once you do several iterations, the ones that are not the best or the ones that haven't played the most will give up and leave the game. So you have a spike at the beginning of usage, and then it goes down because people realize that it's always the same ones that are getting the rewards. So, and then a solution to that problem is that you will then have this cohort of players playing this game, but rather than giving the rewards to the ones that are the most skilled ones or the ones that pay the most, you distribute randomly the reward among all the player user base. Now, if you do that, that will work. That's proven to work. And the problem is that that's called gambling. So you have a cohort of players, you distribute the reward randomly on a random price in magnitude. So that is gambling. We didn't want to get in any of those spaces. So we felt, okay, we cannot use what's there. I mean, it's good, it's inspiring, but we cannot use it if we really want, because we are really real gamers, so we really want to have great experiences. Then we said, okay, is there anything that actually we can do with blockchain gaming that we believe in? So we started looking at it then from the angle of Twitch streamers and the day-to-day life of gamers, because that has changed a lot from the 90s when I started working in the industry. So we looked at a streamer and we realized that actually, if we compared how a streamer streams a game versus how, for example, a sports event is transmitted on TV, there was a significant difference. Like pretty much the streamer, when they talk about the game, is like having a football game, for example, where all the players had just a set of base stats. They don't have a background. So when you listen to someone talking about the football, they say like, this guy won the world championship and has this, and like they have a background. Then we thought like, well, actually we will be very cool if we take the concept of ownership, which is the concept that you get from NFTs, but we evolve it from there. We create a type of NFTs that can be evolving over time, but also they have history. So we record this history, making them very unique, each one of those. And then we link that to the gameplay. So when these NFTs are used, etc., they have a visual enhancement showing off what the NFT does. So this gives a very good reason for a standard player to create an NFT version of any of their assets. And the only thing that happens when you go NFT is that it records the history of the NFT as a service that you've paid for. It will give you some visual vanity enhancements, which makes it possible then for you to fairly compete with a free-to-play player whether you use NFTs or not. It's actually the same core mechanics. So that is only just showing off what you have. Plus, if you make great achievements like winning a world championship, things like that, that will make whether it's an item, it's a card, it's a character, that will make that NFT very unique. And then you can trade it if you ever want to for your profit.
So them having a history can make them more, like you said, more like one of a kind, which can make them more valuable, which then gives the player the kind of opportunity to be able to actually make money from what they're doing whilst also enjoying themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
That on one hand, and from a streamer standpoint, makes the whole thing a lot more interesting. So think about what we had in King with Sweet, great. I mean, we had Bubble, which was Blossom or things like that. Now you can have it like, this guy just played like this item or this card that won the world championship and has been played for that many hours and has so many victories.
In like a physical sense, it's like having a trophy that passes on to the next winner, like an annual prize almost.
Have you? Sorry, just really quickly. Have you played Apex Legends?
Not that one.
So on Apex Legends, which is free to play, obviously not NFT game, but you can actually show your stat. You can choose which stats you want to show. So at the end of the game, if you're one of the winners, it will say you've got 11,000 kills and this many wins this season. And it is something that I'm like, oh, wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I do completely get that concept. It makes a lot of sense.
It's
correct.
Off, yeah.
The only thing we're doing is take that foundation, which you can see, I think FIFA also has similar things for some of the cards, etc. We're taking that a step further by having it more visual when the combat takes place. So imagine that in the game you're mentioning, like you could see that not only at the end of the game, but during the game.
Wow.
And then also you can trade that. So I think the important thing of this vanity part is that when you can trade it, it adds a lot more value to it.
Yeah, definitely. So right now, how many games do you actually have with your platform?
So at the Games for a Living platform, we have Elemental Raiders, which now is available as free to play. It's going to be released as with all the NFT features on the 13th of March this year. So really close from now. 12 years, 12 days from now. Then we have Diamond Dreams. It's a really cool project that where we are leveraging all the know-how we have in switchers. We are retaking the roots of BG World with Jewels. But in our team, we have one of the best digital artists in the world, Javier, and he creates this really amazing virtual jewels. I mean, actually, he sold one NFT. One of his NFTs created by him actually was sold at auction for more than $1.5 million.
Wow.
He also was Emmy nominee for the credits of the Netflix TV series The Crown, has a Goya Award. He has all kind of, he did also worked for companies like Blizzard and Supercell and so forth.
I actually sorry to cut you off. I actually am just looking at the game online now. And it did actually remind me a little bit of like kind of World of Warcraft-y kind of look to it, but like maybe a little bit more kind of like, I don't know, like animated, a little bit more over-animated, but it looks really cool.
Yeah. You mean Elemental Raiders? I guess.
Elemental Raiders, sorry.
Yeah, so Elemental Raiders, to be clear, what we did there is every time you enter a new market, you need to do two new things. One is you have to create a new IP, and then you have to create a new business model. So think about all the latest new markets. You have Facebook was Farmville, it's a new IP, and the business model was new, or Mafia was new, or Millionaire City, which we did. All of those are new IPs with the new business model. When you look at mobile, you have from Candy Crush to Fortnite, going through Clash Royale, all of them new IPs with new business model. You always have an exception around, like Pokemon Go, but it's not the top one, and it's an exception. It's not the rule. So what I mean with all of this is that when we started approaching Web3, I was very conscious that I needed both a new IP that was a really successful new IP as free to play, and then also a new business model. We talked a lot about the business model, but regarding the new IP, what we did was we started with looking at all the genres. So what are the genres we can develop in Web3? And we concluded that we should go for a turn-based mechanic because For example, the last project I worked on, as I mentioned, Call of Duty, you have so many bots, etc. That's really bad ecosystem for Web3 gaming. So we went for turn-based mechanics, and turn-based mechanics, the top ones are games like from Pokemon to Final Fantasy, this turn-based combat. Now, implementing that foundation, it gets boring after you've played many games because it's kind of the same thing, because they always play the same skills. And once you've played like 100 or more games, it gets boring. So when we're looking at how we innovate and we make something more entertaining, we realize like card game work really well. I mean, we really wanted characters in our game because characters are super important. We feel like create a great connection, and for a context like NFTs are really important. But it was boring, like the foundational mechanics of a Pokemon or a Final Fantasy. After a few matches, they weren't entertaining anymore. So we said, what if we mix what we see in games like Hearthstone, where you have a deck, and we create a deck for each one of the characters, which randomly plays exactly like a Hearthstone deck, but it's for that character. So there it started to get more entertaining and more fun. But we are still missing a bit of an element. But then we looked at League of Legends. We really like the fact that you buy an item there. And then we decided to have these items that you equip to your characters during the match. And then is when we started to feel satisfied with the result. We felt like, okay, this feels fresh. It gets the feeling that we want. We at the office started playing the game actively for fun, which is always very important. And that was Elemental Raiders. That's the game you were saying. So basically, it's a mix. It's of three core mechanics: turn-based combat like Final Fantasy or Pokemon, trading card games like Hearthstone, and then the touch of League of Legends for the items.
Makes sense. I have a bit of a tough question for you. This is regarding kind of like the games in general. So how, as a company, if obviously this is a free-to-play game, what's kind of your drive? Like, how do you basically make and monetize this game?
As a free-to-play game, so basically we have a couple of ways to monetize. So you have all the free-to-play foundation. So it works exactly. It's a free-to-play game. In essence, and then you have the extra layer, which is the layer of the marketplace. So as I mentioned, any of the players can go and take any of their items from free to play and then convert them into the NFT version of that item. Now the thing that happens is that this item will track history and will enable extra visual enhancements, extra vanity on it. Okay. Now the thing is that there will be people interested in this item. Okay. And then because there will be people interested in this item, they will be willing to buy it, okay? And when they buy it, we charge 4.8% in the transaction fee. So it's on all those extra transactions that are going to be happening that we can make money as well. So one thing that's very different is that I've simplified that a lot just to make the explanation very simple, just to be very clear.
It makes sense,
Because for example, we have the example of the cards in Elemental Riders. Those cards can be traded, and when you trade the card has like different levels. Think of a character put an example of a game that many people have played, of Clash Royale. So Clash Royale, the characters evolve and have a depth, and you can level them up, etc. So in this case, you can trade a character and someone else can buy it, and also use those copies of that character to level up their characters. So you have all this community of trade that before was people buying chess or similar things to the company. Now they can buy, sell among themselves. And I do believe that what's going to happen is that while some people could argue, in the same way, it's the same dilemma that we have with free-to-play games. So you can say, like, if you game the game for free, you won't get enough return from those willing to pay. That was a statement that many people made back in the day. I thought they were wrong, and actually they are now. That's been proven. But in this case, I see pretty much the same. I'm saying, like, rather than users buying the time to the company, if they buy it from other players, while we're going to be making less profit at the beginning, because they can see that they can actually make a profit, that will increase a lot the trading. Therefore, the net revenue overall, as it grows, it's going to be better for the company as well as for the players. So I see a very similar situation where once because that's in the favor of gamers. At the end of the day, you can do something with your time. You can You can interact a lot more with your friends, and that creates a better ecosystem for gaming. And usually when the ecosystem grows, and this in this case will be growing in terms of transactions. So it's true that, so let's put it this way. A player right now interacts with a company, and they are buying an average, let's say, of $20 of time per month. And that will be a payer that contributes. What I think is going to happen is that the number of payers with this system will increase, because a lot more people will be interested, because they are not paying the company, they're paying their friends, they're paying other people that they have around. So there will be more people that are going to be willing to pay, and those willing to pay will even pay more, because that goes to the other players. Now, with our small percentage on each one of those transactions, as the transactions scale and we get more of them and of higher amounts, because that's the profit of the player, with our small commission, we will end up compensating for the revenue that we lose by not selling that time to the players.
I like it. That is a really, really good way to do it, because I've been looking at a lot of blockchain games over the last over a year and a half, maybe. And to be honest with you, that is the best explanation to benefit the user and the company.
Yeah, and everybody wins, essentially.
Yeah, I like it.
Correct. If we get the critical mass, as it happened with free-to-play games, I think that will be great. And that's a win-win for all of us at Games for a Living. We are gamers. So as I mentioned, like from day one, we've always been thinking about how, and the question at the beginning was as simple as like, is it possible actually to make anything good out of blockchain? And we believe it is. Of course, it will take a few iterations and refinement in terms of making the wallet as accessible as possible. We had to go through a lot of small changes when we did the revolution of free-to-play games. But it started working quite soon, so I expect on this, like the first game already to work, and from then on just getting better until there is a point where all the 85% of the market today, as I mentioned, is free to play. I want to see this 85% of the market to be pay to earn games within the next 8 to 10 years.
Yeah, and speaking of which, I mean, how do you see the Web3 gaming space in 5 years? How do you perceive it will be as a heavy part of our lives?
I personally think that for Web3 gaming, the catalyzer are going to be esports for the reasons mentioned. So at least in our case, we're doing a lot of work from the esports perspective to facilitate the job of the streamers and make it even more engaging to stream our games than other games.
Exactly.
And we also believe that within that ecosystem, it makes it even more valuable, all this time invested in this game, so that people can trade, etc. So I expect play-to-earn games to be very relevant in the future. I expect new ways of competition or online competition and tournaments to appear to make it more appealing. I expect the video games industry to take a space and grow even further on that space from other events that are shown on TV and on other media. So I think that there will be a lot of growth, and it will be basically esports and blockchain will be a catalyzer of both sectors. So each one will make the other grow. That's how I see things in the future. And in terms of the games, it's not, as I mentioned, I don't see that much of a major change in the way the core game is more on what you can do with your time in the game and all the extra parts.
Definitely.
Perfect.
Exciting.
It was very well explained. Honestly, Manel, I feel like we could sit here and learn from you for hours, but I don't want to take up much more of your time. But honestly, I really appreciate you having a chat with us today. And I tell you what, we're definitely going to go and play that game, I think, and give it a go and
we will,
and learn some more. Yeah.
Well, and if you provide feedback, more than welcome, because for us it's really important. We read everything, all the feedback that we're getting. Just in the management team, we have more than 120 years of experience in game creation, but everyone can contribute, and I think that's very important. Like all of us always have like a spot that's blind, so sometimes something that may not seem that interesting to someone, but it shares it can trigger either great ideas, or that may be a great idea on its own. So if you play and you have any ideas, please feel free to share. on Discord or Telegram, wherever you feel best. And we are listening to all that feedback and doing our best to keep improving the games.
Great.
Amazing.
We'll definitely share a link to the website as well, so
yes,
our listeners can...
Yes, we'll put it down. We'll put the link in the description so you can have a little play and have a look about it. And we might let's do a stream, James, of us playing this because it looks really cool. I'm excited to give it a go. Manel, thank you so much for all your wisdom. We really appreciate you coming on today and having a chat with us. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for hosting me today. Cheers.